Hi, everybody. Welcome to this Board Game Life episode number 38, titled Podcast Orchestra. The show has been recorded on Sunday, May 22nd, 2016, in the ultra spacious and luxurious This Board Game Life studios. At least I'd like to think so. All right, who am I kidding? Anyway, for this show, we'll be covering Dr. Eureka. Philip duBarry joins me once again to talk about his latest project that he's got going on. Also, we have the results from the contest from episode 37, oh so long ago. There's a new segment for tips for this board game hobby of ours. So let's get on with the show. And welcome back to the show. I'm Rob Milanovic, your host for this Board Game Life. Thanks once again for joining me. I'm very happy to have you here with me. Once again, this is the show where we talk about anything and everything relating to the tabletop gaming hobby. So this includes board games, card games, maybe miniature games, anything and everything associated with the hobby. Who knows? Also, I'd like to mention that this Board Game Life does have a YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for This Board Game Life. You'll see the content that I put out there, including some previews, unboxings, game reviews, and such. Looking to get some more content out there very soon. And then also follow This Board Game Life on Twitter, which is at @TBoardGameLife. And you'll see everything that I tweet out on there. So let's get on with the show here. First off, I did want to cover the results of the contest that we had from way back when, episode 37. That's such a long time ago, unfortunately. The winner of that contest is Chris M. from Pennsylvania. So congratulations, Chris. You got shipped out to you a long, long time ago, a copy of Guildhall and a couple other AEG goodies as well. So thanks for entering. Actually, thanks to everybody who entered the contest, and congratulations to Chris for winning. Hope you enjoyed the goods. So next up, let's go on to our interview. We're once again joined by Philip duBarry. So here we go. Hey folks, quick note before we get on with the interview. We had some audio issues with one side of the recording where things were kind of looping back a little bit, causing an echo. I cleaned it up as best as I could, but it's still there in some of the sections. But sorry about that, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Thanks. It's Philip duBarry, the designer of games such as Skyway Robbery, Revolution, Kingdom of Solomon, Spirits of the Rice Paddy, and a whole bunch of others. Welcome to the show once again, Philip.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Oh, no worries, no worries. It's always a pleasure. Whenever you want to come back, you just let me know. Because I definitely enjoy having you on, and I'm sure that my listeners enjoy it as well.
Good deal.
I hear through the interwebs that you have a new game that you're going to be producing pretty soon here. It's called Black Orchestra. Mm-hmm. I'm very interested to find out a little bit about that game. The very unusual, at least nowadays, method that you have of people purchasing this game, which definitely interests me.
Sure.
I don't know if it's a risky move or a genius move.
We don't know either.
Yeah. But from what I've seen, it's been tested before. But what can you tell me about your new game here? What's it all about?
Okay. Well, Black Orchestra is a cooperative game, and so you can play it solo or you can play it with up to 5 different people. And in the game, you are part of the conspiracy against Adolf Hitler during World War II. So you're all Germans, and in various places in the government or in the military or just citizens. Through the game, you grow more and more angry with the situation and more determined to do something about it. And you discover some various plots that you could put together, and you're collecting different items to help you do that, and different cards to give you some extra little boost to do that. And meanwhile, the Gestapo is sort of chasing you and investigating you, and in some cases arresting you every once in a while and putting you through some interrogations as you're trying to do this. But ultimately, you're trying to assassinate Hitler before it's too late, before he does so much damage that it's irreversible. And because everybody knows the Allies are coming, they're going to win. Hitler's driving Germany into the ground and doing all kinds of terrible atrocities. And so you want to put a stop to it as quickly as possible.
From what I read in your designer notes for this game had a different title originally, and you changed it?
Well, actually, this was the original title. And then when we signed with Game Salute, they had the idea of maybe changing the name to Hitler Must Die, just to be a little bit more obvious about what it is. And I think maybe back then the thinking was it would help with the marketing and just the recognition of what it was. But as we finished up the game and really got into understanding the feel that we were going for and got the art together, it just really seemed a little crass and unnecessary to do that. So we traded back to the original name, Black Orchestra, which is actually what the Gestapo called the conspirators. That's kind of what their code name was for them. It's a little bit more mysterious. You're not exactly sure what that is. So maybe it would be intriguing, or maybe, you wouldn't exactly know what kind of game that would be until you looked at it. But, the response has been pretty good, actually. Several people have commented saying that they much prefer the Black Orchestra name. That's the title that drew them in to find out more about it. And some of them said, oh, if it had been Hitler Must Die, that sounds like some kind of, stupid game that they wouldn't care about. And that's not what this is. This is a very serious treatment, I hope, of the material. And so that's kind of what we were going for.
Oh, absolutely. And do you think that the subject matter that it touches upon, is that maybe too sensitive for some people?
Well, I mean, that's another thing that's come up. Not in any great way. Like, nobody's said that they are they think it's going too far or something like that. I mean, we're definitely on the right side of history on that.
Yes.
However, we made the decision that we're not going to be able to sell the game in Germany just because of reviewing all of their laws about symbols and things that you can have. I mean, we pretty much violate, 15 or 20 different laws in the game just based on the way their codes are. And so, that's kind of its own discussion. And we don't know very much about the specifics of the law or how to, how that would be. But I hope that it's not going to be offensive to anyone. Certainly that's not the idea. And certainly we're not trying to be flippant about it. So I hope that we hit the right tone with people, and I hope they understand where we're coming from.
Yeah, because it is a cooperative game, and you're playing on the right side, I guess our side.
Although, I mean, and it is, it is a little morally ambiguous too, because you're on the right side, but you are still Nazis, some of them. Not all of them are a part of the Nazi party, but some of them were. And some of the characters, maybe had lend a hand to some of the, things that went on, or inadvertently or kind of indirectly, supported the regime, at least at the beginning, maybe before people realized exactly where it was going. And so maybe, you could see where some people would have some reservations about that maybe, but I think it's an important historical event to underscore, and certainly something we shouldn't ever forget.
Oh, definitely. And I think it's definitely a lot more palatable for folks to be trying to stop Hitler as opposed to being on the opposite side of that coin, where you are Hitler and you're trying to stop, any kind of revolt or your assassination. I think that people would have a lot more issue with that.
Sure.
How did you come upon choosing this as the theme and the core of the game?
Right. Well, I've always been interested in World War II and those stories, and it's always been fascinating to me. I grew up watching World War II movies and documentaries and all kinds of things like that, going to museums. And I just it's always been very interesting. And then as I've gotten older, I've read quite a few books about the subject and coming from different angles. And the one book that I think really inspired me the most was Eric Metaxas's biography of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, which is one of the best books I've read probably ever, but certainly within the last 10 years or so. But if you're looking for something interesting to read about the Second World War, I would definitely suggest that book.
Well, as far as the game goes, how does it play? What do you do?
Each player has a player board, so you're playing an actual character, and everybody has a special ability that they can unlock. They don't have it at the beginning. So at the beginning of the game, you have a kind of a scale where you start off, your motivation starts off, you're kind of timid, and you're not really willing to do very much against the regime at this point. So you can only hold 2 cards. That's all you can do. That's your power. But
so it's almost like you're testing the waters.
Right. But as your motivation increases through various means, then you can hold more cards, and then finally you can do your special ability sometimes if you want to. And then finally, you're so motivated that you'd be willing to carry out one of the plots. There are a few plots that you have to actually be zealously motivated, which is even higher, just to carry them out, some of the more dangerous ones. And so you're kind of going around and collecting things, and at the same time, you have another track on your player board that is tracking your suspicion level. And so some of the things that you do raise your suspicion level. And so if your suspicion goes all the way to extreme, and at the end of every turn, an event card comes out, and if one of them is a Gestapo card, then whoever's on extreme will go to jail immediately. If everybody ends up in jail, you lose the game. There are some ways to get people out of jail. If you're in jail, your turn is rolling a dice, and then if you roll badly, you will be interrogated, and there's these special interrogation cards that you have to sort of pick some bad thing that's going to happen to everybody based on the information that you've told them. So it's in your best interest to get people out of jail as quickly as possible.
Okay.
And then there's some other, there's Hitler and some of his deputies that are kind of moving around the board at the same time, and they sort of cause trouble for you every once in a while. And so the events sort of move you through the events of the war, not exactly in chronological order, but kind of close to it. So we've kind of mixed them up a little bit. We've removed some here and there randomly, so you're not exactly sure what's coming, but you have sort of a general arc that you can expect. And ultimately, at the end of it, if you've not been successful by the end, the Gestapo will hunt you down and find your secret stash of papers, and they will end your conspiracy.
Okay. Now, this being a cooperative game, is it solo playable?
It is. You the way we have it now is you just play 2 of the characters at the same time, so it's pretty much identical to the multiplayer version.
Okay. So you're just taking twice the moves essentially, right, and such. Okay. Now, this game is not like some of your other games, or actually quite a few of them, where they've been on Kickstarter in the past. Now, this game is using a different system. It's like a pre-order system. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, I think the idea was that we wanted to try something a little different. It sort of fits well with the theme being a little more kind of below the radar, and I don't know. I think they felt like maybe a Kickstarter page was a little bit not quite achieving the feel of the game, or conveying what we were trying to do, I guess.
Okay.
And Game Salute's done a lot of Kickstarters. Now they've been able to deliver most of them, and things are coming around in a good way. And yet, I think they're wanting to maybe try something new here and there. They've actually done a pre-order campaign for maybe 1 or 2 of their other games in the past, and it's worked pretty well. And so they wanted to give it a shot with this one.
Because I know that there's some publishers that have done something like this recently, and they've had a fair amount of success. So I don't see why this couldn't be successful as well for, you and other folks.
And, there are some advantages. You don't have to pay Kickstarter for all the things that they do. There's a lot of busy work that you can avoid in the back end of things. It's maybe the people maybe have a different presentation of the excitement level as far as, watching all the numbers go up and things like that. But I think we've been able to generate a pretty fair amount of excitement. We've had some good success on Board Game Geek and gotten a lot of exposure. And we have the game up on Tabletopia now, and so it's free to play for anybody that wants to. And some people have tried it out and given us their feedback, and that has all been very good. And so I feel like that we've done some good things to get the word out.
So with the pre-order that you've got, a person would go to the Black Orchestra website. They would place their pre-order. And what happens if you don't meet your goal that you have?
Well, on June 15th, the folks will decide what they want to do, and if they want to continue it a little bit more, if they want to, maybe things have not gone well. If that's the case, they will cancel the whole thing and make sure everybody has their money, and none of those payments will go through. But if they decide that yes, we will make it, then they'll maybe commit to it, and then it'll be on, and they may keep it open for a little while longer, or I'm not exactly sure. We have some options here. So, but the June 15th date is when we'll kind of know what's going to happen, I think.
So it's kind of like the line in the sand that you have. So for people that are interested in the game, there's really no difference than Kickstarter, really.
Sure, yeah. It's a very similar idea, I think.
So people will have a place to go to do their order, even though Kickstarter isn't a pre-order system. So they say. A lot of people think different, of course. You have the same amount of low risk that you do on Kickstarter. Okay. And as far as the game is concerned, I was reading on your site that the whole game is basically complete. And it's not like one of those where, at least I've backed in the past, where, okay, you finally get backed and then they continue development for another 6 months.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that was something that was important for this game as well. We wanted to have pretty much everything in place, and all the art is in place. And so we're, by June 15th, we'll be ready to push the print button almost immediately. And that means we can deliver the game before the end of the year, which is pretty good for,
amazing,
considering what Kickstarters do. And, some of the Game Salute ones in the past have been like, well, we'll give it to you in a year and a half or something like that. But I mean, by the end of the year is pretty good. And
well, absolutely. So especially considering it's May right now.
And the pre-order system is allowing us to do that, to have a shot at doing that. So that's an advantage.
Excellent. What do you think about having your game available on Tabletopia for people to try?
I think it's been.
This is something.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say this is something that you don't really hear about currently, and I'm sure that folks are going to be using it more and more. But do you think that it kind of helps people make the decision to back the game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the way you sell games is have people play the game, and so. And I think we've already seen that is what's going on, and so we want to try to encourage as many people as possible to play it, and to see what it's all about and try it out and see if that's something that their group would be interested in, and make them feel comfortable about what they're getting behind, rather than having to wait and see later, or take somebody's word for it. I mean, there's lots of reviewers, but it's not the same as playing it yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the full game that's on Tabletopia, right? It's not a pared down light.
No, yeah, it's the full game. There are a few more characters that we may release as we go into the campaign. Right now there are 5 that you can play, but there are a total of 9, and then there are 3 additional that are kind of the secret ones that you will get if you pre-order.
And technically, with the game being cooperative and soloable, you can play this by yourself. You don't even need to have people come in with you into Tabletopia. And Tabletopia is free with this particular link that you have, so there's no cost. So it seems like a win-win.
And it's been really good with to help with reviewers. Last night we had a pretty good session with some different reviewers, and we were able to record that, and so that's on YouTube. We have a link to that where you can watch some reviewers play the game and see what they thought about it. And I think they're going to be writing some things in the coming days about their experience.
Now, you started this game, I see, in 2011, I believe. That's when the development started on it. So I would think that you started that development process using the, I'll call it traditional, the old school way of development, probably paper and cardboard and who knows what else. Did you, let's say, recently switch over to Tabletopia?
Well, that's definitely been a recent development. And it has, I think they came on the scene, maybe 6 months ago or less than a year ago, something like that. And it has been revolutionary. I think it's helped my job as trying to play test games. I know I have several other projects that we have been play testing through Tabletopia, and I know there are some other services that kind of work the same way, but I think that theirs is top notch, and they're not quite even all the way through with it, but it's already very, very good, very smooth. And I mean, the ability to play the game and test your game with somebody from anywhere, and you don't have to go to anybody's house, you don't have to go to some faraway place.
Right.
You can do it from the comfort of your own home. Get in those playtest sessions and make changes and go back and do it again, almost immediately or the next day. That is fantastic, and it's led to a quicker development process.
So I remember a couple of years ago, you posted a guide on how to make some prototype boards, and I think you showed how you made boxes for your prototypes and such. Now, that's pretty much history.
Well, I mean,
isn't it?
I think you still want to make some, to show to certain people. If you're going to be at a convention and presenting to a publisher or something like that, or running some demos ahead of the Kickstarter, it's nice to have a good copy to when you're at a certain place and you can physically play the game. Certainly, the physical game is more authentic and I think maybe enjoyable, but the Tabletopia experience, you sort of forget that you're even playing it on the computer sometimes, so it's pretty close.
Oh, definitely. I would think that it would almost let you focus more on the game. If you need to change something, it would be super quick to change in Tabletopia, and then when you kind of have that nailed down and it's working, that's when you can, let's say, do a couple of the prototypes, the physical ones, and you're not constantly remaking things or changing things around as the development process, as playtesting continues. So, okay, that's very cool. And I definitely see that being the future of things. And do you see yourself using that more and more on all your future games?
I think so. And it's just too easy to do the development on it and to draw other people in and raise awareness for it. And it's definitely a good tool.
Okay. So where can people go to pre-order?
Well, the website is just blackorchestra.com. So that's you don't even have to go to Kickstarter or whatever else. We have our own thing, and you can kind of see. We have an Intel side of the website, which we give updates pretty much every day, and There's some place for questions. Most of the discussion, I think, has been happening on Board Game Geek. So if you go to our Board Game Geek page for Black Orchestra, which should be pretty easy to find these days, we've been responding on there as quickly as we can, and having some good discussions with people asking questions and things. And so that's kind of been how we've been connecting with people.
And they have until June 15th, approximately.
Right, and then then we'll know if enough people have pre-ordered or not, or what we'll do about it, and how that's going to go.
Definitely great to hear about that new title. Do you have anything else that you've been working on?
Well, we actually do have a traditional Kickstarter that's going to be starting tomorrow. So by the time this is up, it'll already be live. And that is the game is called Chief Inspector. And this is a small card game that is sort of based in the same world as Skyway Robbery. And it's also, there's another game on the Kickstarter as well called City of Outcasts by another designer. Both of them are smaller card games and quicker to play, but still in kind of the same feel and spirit of that Skyway Robbery universe. And so, yeah, I think that it's a smaller goal and a smaller project, but still I'm proud of how that's worked out. And it's a fun game to play. And I haven't played City of Outcasts, but that looks very interesting as well.
Okay, so we're recording this on the 17th of May, so it's going to be live on the 18th.
And I think that's going to run for about 2.5 weeks, so it's going to be a shorter campaign.
Okay. And then how many players is that for? Is that like a 2-player game?
Well, I think Chief Inspector is 2 to 4 right now, and City of Outcasts looks like it is from 2 to 4 as well.
Would that be classified as just, a normal card game, or is that a micro
I think
game?
City of Outcasts is more of a micro game. I think there's only maybe 14 cards or something like that. My game is a little more traditional. It's got 105 cards.
Okay.
Although you don't use them all to play in a traditional sort of way, but there is a hand and some different rounds. The idea in Chief Inspector is that you are trying to find the most notorious criminal and arrest them, which is kind of interesting because in Skyway Robbery, you are the criminals. And now in this game, you're trying to arrest those same criminals from that game, which is kind of interesting. And so there's about 4 different characteristics that for each of the criminals. And what you're going to do is you're going to secretly try to figure out and look at those. And each one of them has kind of a different value on it. And some of them have negative values too. And then some of them also give you a corruption card, which at the end of the game, if you have the most corruption, you cannot win the game. So you have to be careful about that. But then ultimately, at the end of the game, after you've figured out who you're going to arrest and everybody else is locked in, who they're after, you flip over all the cards and see which one actually was the most notorious criminal. And so it's a lot of moving around and shifting and subterfuge and all of that, and trying to figure out, deduce which one is the best one to go for.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to let our listeners know?
I guess of course, I have several other projects in the works, but I would like to mention Kingdom of Solomon, and you've actually got to play that at least one of the one of the versions. We've made a few changes, but that's pretty close to what you played. This was a game that came out in 2011 by Minion Games, and it met with critical acclaim and people liked it, and yet nobody bought it. And so we had trouble with our sales. That was the very beginning of Kickstarter. And so I think we raised $10,000 and we were so excited about that. And James was not ready to, he didn't have any interest in publishing it again or doing some kind of different version of it. But I felt like that the game deserved to have a second chance. And so he gave me the rights back to it. And I've since found a new publisher, which is Fun Hill Games, which they've done. They did Kings of Israel last year and did a good Kickstarter about that. And it's a good fit. It's a good company. And I think we are well on our way to producing a much better version of Kingdom of Solomon, kind of sticking close to a lot of the same elements as the first one, but still quite a few changes and tweaks, and even whole systems that have been overhauled. And so that will be on Kickstarter sometime at the end of the year. That's what we're aiming for.
Kingdom of Solomon is definitely a fantastic game, and everybody that I've played it with has enjoyed it. Yeah, like you said, it just seemed to go under the radar for a lot of people, and I never understood that. And I'm very happy to hear that there's a new version that's coming out, and hopefully when that does come out, you can tell our listeners more about it by coming back on the show. Where can we find out more information about you or some of the projects that we're working on?
Well, my website is fantasiogames.net. I'm on Twitter as is duBarry, and I have a Facebook group as well for Fantasio Games. There's several different places, and look forward to getting these projects out and seeing them through and delivered and successful.
So thanks for coming on once again, and good luck with your titles.
Thank you very much.
And for this episode, there's one game that I'd like to talk about, and that's Dr. Eureka. Dr. Eureka was released in 2015 by Blue Orange Games, designed by Roberto Fraga. Plays 1 to 4 folks in about 15 minutes per game, and supports ages 8 and up. And I'd say that's right about on for the ages specifically. What kind of game is this? Well, it's a dexterity family game where you're basically pattern building in a bunch of test tubes. That's probably the best way to describe them. And the flavor text for the game says, the brilliant Dr. Eureka has important experiments for you to complete. You must solve his scientific formulas by making the molecules from tube to tube without touching them with your bare hands. And of course, that's touching the molecules, not the tubes. You have to touch the tubes. Transfer your molecules faster than your competition in Dr. Eureka to prove you're the smartest scientist in the lab. I'd say that is pretty much right on there. So what do you get in this game? Well, you get a whole bunch of molecules, which are these little plastic balls in 3 different colors. There's a purple color, green, and red. For the colorblind folks out there, which include myself, green and red can strike fear into the hearts of everybody that's colorblind. And fortunately, at least for me, red and green are okay in this game. They are different enough where they can be discerned. At least you can tell the difference between them, thankfully. The game comes in a pretty cool little plastic insert where all of the test tubes are held properly. You put the balls inside of them so things don't rattle around in there. Thank you so much, Blue Orange Games, for that, because this one could have been ugly if everything was just rattling around in the box. Artwork is pretty good on it. Basically, the artwork is really on the rules, and there's a bunch of cards that come with the game and the box. So it's nice cartoony artwork. As far as the actual game pieces themselves, there's really just 3 things. Test tubes, there's the balls, which are the molecules, and the cards. And the cards are square-shaped, which sometimes can be annoying, at least to me. Although for this game, they are just fine. You're really not holding them in your hand. That's my main gripe with the square cards for the most part. Rulebook is fairly simple to read. It's a fold-out, multi-fold piece of paper. When it's all folded up, it's about the size of the cards, which themselves are maybe, I don't know, about 3 inches square, 2.5 inches square, approximately. So the rule book actually kind of fits pretty nice into the box. And it is more than adequate for the game because the game is pretty simple. So I know I've kind of been going around and around about the game. So what is the game about? That's probably what you're wondering. Well, basically what you're doing in this game is you have a stack of cards, and the cards depict 3 different test tubes. Every player has 3 test tubes. And in those test tubes, you will have 2 green balls, 2 red balls, and 2 purple balls. As you draw these cards from the face down stack, the cards will depict 3 test tubes with a certain combination of molecules in them. So you'll have, let's say in one of them, there'll be like green, green. The next one will be purple, red, purple. And then the last one will be just red. I hope I got all 6 of those colors. If I didn't, forgive me. When everybody starts in the game, everybody takes their 3 test tubes, and you're trying to move the balls from tube to tube, trying to set up the combination that you have on the card. The first person that reaches that combination, they score that card, which is a point, and the game ends when 5 points are scored. There are a couple of variants, like one of them I believe is you actually have to hold all 3 test tubes. That makes it a little bit harder. And if you do drop any balls on the table or the floor, you are done. You're supposed to be removed from the rest of the round, although you can continue after that round is complete. So definitely try to not do that. And for the most part, for the adults at least, that is, it's pretty easy to get all of the balls from tube to tube and not drop them on the floor. However, kids will have an issue with that. I guarantee the younger they are, the more these things will be all over the place. So you might want to have some house rules or such when you're playing with family members, especially young kids, because it's no fun if you're out of every single round. Also, there's a rule that lets you do upside down combinations. And what I mean by that is that, let's say the card for this particular round wants purple, purple, green. And this is from top down order. What you can do is you can do green, purple, purple. So that's basically the same molecules, however, or same color molecules, however, upside down. And then as you finish up and shout Eureka for the end of the game, you can flip your tube upside down on the table, hopefully not dumping your molecules all over the floor. And that will count just fine. However, I've basically been playing the game the entire time without that rule. I find it's a little more challenging, especially for the kids when they're playing, to just play them as they are shown in the card. Maybe it makes the rounds just last a little bit longer because you are shuffling things around, but it makes it a little bit simpler. So overall, this game is a lot of fun. A lot of fun for adults, a lot of fun for kids. It teaches this really wonderful logic system where kids can kind of figure out, hey, if I need purple, purple, green over here in this tube, how do I get that? Well, maybe if I put the purples over here in this tube for a little bit and then move the red from here to here, then I'll have the green available. I'll put those back. Kind of like there used to be this game years ago. Actually, we built it in wood shop when I was in school called Towers of Hanoi, where you move these discs around from post to post, trying to get them in the proper order or to move them around. It's kind of like that, if you're familiar with that at all. And it gives kids this wonderful sense of accomplishment. Like, I figured this out, and I never expected to see this type of learning. I'll call it learning, like logic learning. I never expected to see this from this game. I figured it would just be something kind of fun to do, maybe a little challenging in terms of dexterity. However, it had this hidden surprise of this wonderful logic system that my son in particular, he's like, I want to play that game again. He's like, I did it. Awesome. And I was welling up just watching the little guy play the game. And he also does, my son, by the way, does like to play this game in a non-competitive fashion, just where we go through the cards and go from basically round to round, just not rushing, building the combinations and such. And it's like, hey, let's do another one. So there's definitely this feeling of accomplishment, and it's something special. So this game is great fun. I definitely did enjoy it. My whole family enjoyed it. Everybody I showed it to enjoyed it. It is a pretty good family game. It plays quickly, 10, 15 minutes, and you're done. It's maybe filler category, or it's enough at the end of the game night in case you're all burnt out from something really, really heavy. Good for families. It's going to be iffy with the kids. Depends on how good they are at moving things around, because it could be really frustrating for them, and maybe for you if you're picking up molecules off of the floor all the time. Definitely replayable, and something that you might want to check out. Now for a new segment for the show. This is something that I've been playing around with for a while. Thought it would be something cool to do. Maybe even do some YouTube videos on this as well. And that is the This Board Game Life Tips section. So here's a tip for this episode. It's basically something that I know a lot of people know, and surprisingly, a lot of people don't. So I figured I'd cover it here. And that's when you get that shiny new game and you start punching things out, you'll find sometimes that you get a ton of space in that game. So as soon as that box goes vertical, all the components are going to be falling out of the insert, if there is a decent insert in there at least. So what's a gamer to do? Well, something that a lot of people know to do, and was actually even called out in a couple of games. Most recently, Quadropolis had this, and that's as soon as you punch out all the components from the punch boards, or whatever you want to call it, the chipboard, as soon as you punch all of those components out, lift up the insert and tuck all of the old, I'll call them spent sprues, whatever you want to call them, just tuck that inside under the insert, put the insert back on, and then at that point, you should have a very snug insert, meaning that when the box lid gets closed, then there should be basically no wiggle room for the board and some of the components in there. Now, there are some games out there that will have a whole ton of boards inside, and the manufacturer, when they shrink wrap everything, you'll see that the box lid does not close all the way down. And when you remove all of the boards from the box, then it does close properly. For those, you might not be able to put all of the boards back. You'll kind of have to do it by trial and error, see how many boards you need to put underneath the insert in order for things to fit properly. And then lastly, the last tip that I want to add for this is something that I've never heard anybody mention previously, and that's that you can always leverage foam core. So if there is a game that doesn't necessarily have enough spent boards to put underneath the insert, you can always grab some inexpensive foam core. The stuff you can find super cheap at stores like Dollar Tree, where it's $1 a sheet for their really, really cheap foam core. But hey, if it's under the insert, who's to know? Who is to know? So $1 board can give you a couple of sheets of insert padding. So with this, you just basically can take either the insert itself or the rules, or even one of the old insert boards, or not insert boards, one of the old punch boards that you have spent, and just trace that to get your sizing. If you trace the outside of the box, it's going to be too big. You might need to eyeball it if you do that and cut it a little short. But however you do it, you put underneath there, and it should get you pretty close. So that is the tip for episode 38. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you at least got a cool idea from the foam core piece of that. All right, and then last up, we have 20 shows ago. The show 18 was on August 12th, 2012. So that's almost 4 years ago that that episode was released. Talked about a whole bunch of games. I'm only going to cover a bunch of them. First off is Gonzaga. This is a much unappreciated game. Definitely, virtually nobody knows about it. And you can occasionally find it on clearance in a bunch of places nowadays. But it's great fun. I definitely need to break this game out. Haven't played it in forever. Very, very cool little game. Familia, or Famiglia, if you'd like to say it improperly, card game by Friedman Fries. Definitely a classic game. Still love it to this day. A lot of fun to play, and it actually plays fairly well on Yucata. One of my more favorite games out there. Mice and Mystics. So Mice and Mystics was a game that I first tried at the Gen Con show that I went, I believe, wow, that was probably 2012, 2013. Actually, no, it would have been 2012, I believe. So played it back then and was lukewarm about it. Since then, they've had a bunch of expansions come out for this, and the game has taken off like wildfire. And I've since kind of revised my thoughts on the game, and I like it. Definitely a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful family game. Definitely check it out if you haven't. Lords of Waterdeep seems to have turned into kind of like a cult classic gateway game. Pretty cool game. And they have their expansion, Scoundrels or something. Oh, the name escapes me right now. But there's an expansion for it that adds some interesting stuff to it. Definitely still a good game. Then Zulareto Würfelspiel, which has come out in an English version. Zulareto, the dice game, still a good game. And there's going to be an expansion for it, actually. I saw this last year. I don't know if it's come out yet, but I'm actually interested to see if something has come out with it. I believe it was supposed to be just a new pad that you play on. So hopefully we'll see something about that pretty soon if it hasn't come out. And so that's it. So in closing, we have Game Lust. Only a couple of things I really want to mention, some stuff that sparked my interest of late. This War of Mine, the board game, has come out. It's on Kickstarter right now. Actually, so it hasn't come out. It is on Kickstarter. This game is just fantastic. If you're into PC games at all, definitely check this game out. It's also out on Xbox One. Not the original game. It's kind of like a console version of the game. This is the board game version of it. It's got a couple miniatures. The entry price for the game is a little up there. However, I'm really hoping that this game is a winner. And it's designed by Michael Eratz. Hopefully I pronounced that name properly. So Michael has been working on games for a long time. This is definitely not his first effort at games. You might know him best from Hiroshima Hex, and he's done a bunch of art and development for Portal games as well, for a couple other titles like 51st State and a couple of others. Definitely looking forward to this game for sure. And also another game that I'm really interested in is One Deck Dungeon. This is the latest game that's going to be coming out from Asmati Games and Chris Cizlik. It's a cool little card game. They've definitely had a whole bunch of winners in the past, like all the Carl Chuddik games. So whenever they have something new, I'm always interested to see what it's all about. And I believe this one is going to be up on Kickstarter sometime soon. So there you have it. That was episode 38 of This Board Game Life. We saw what Philip duBarry was up to with Black Orchestra, and can't wait also for Kingdom of Solomon, which is going to be redone in a new form. Then also Dr. Eureka was definitely a surprise hit, and it's also interesting to see all the new ways that companies are trying to get around Kickstarter. So good luck to Philip and Black Orchestra. So make sure to follow This Board Game Life on Twitter. That's TBoardGameLife. Also, we have a guild on Board Game Geek. Check that out. And feedback is never required, but always appreciated if you leave a voicemail on the thisboardgamelife.com website. So there's a widget on the right-hand side of the screen. Just click that and you can leave a voicemail. Or if you send an email, send it to contact@thisboardgamelife. And we will use whatever you send on the next show. So thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll see you on episode 39.